You know that moment when your friends are talking about the vacation they're all booking together. Cancun, all inclusive, $2,000 a head. And everyone's in and they're tagging you in the group chat, and there's this weird pause while you're doing the math in your head. Not because you can't go, but because you're sitting there thinking, that $2,000 is literally 3 months of compound interest on my emergency fund. That's halfway to my next investment contribution. And then someone sends you the crying, laughing emoji because you've been quiet too long. Yeah, that's the moment nobody talks about. My name is Dave, and I spend way too much time thinking about the hidden social cost of building real wealth. If you're someone who has ever felt genuinely weird or out of place because you think about money differently than the people around you, make sure to hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Because today we are going into something that every personal finance creator dances around, but almost nobody sits down and addresses it. Why getting rich, actually building generational, life-changing wealth, often feels profoundly lonely. And more importantly, what you do about it without destroying your relationships or your net worth. And look, I want to warn you up front. Some of what I'm going to say today is going to feel uncomfortable. It might even feel a little harsh. But I think you'd rather hear the truth from me in a short video than figure it out the hard way over the next decade of your life. Let's get into it. Here's the thing. When most people hear the phrase, getting rich feels lonely, they picture some miserable billionaire sitting alone in a mansion counting his money, like a cartoon villain. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the process, the years, sometimes the decade, in between where you are right now and where you're trying to go. That transition period is where the loneliness lives, and it's way more common than anyone admits. But here's the reality most people don't see. The loneliness isn't just emotional. It has a financial cost, a measurable, calculable, real dollar cost that most people never account for when they're building a wealth plan. Let me give you a number. The average American spends, and I want you to sit with this, approximately $3,458 per year on what researchers at the University of Michigan call social spending. That's dining out with friends, splitting bills at bars, gifts for occasions you felt socially obligated to attend, group vacations, covering a friend who's a little short this month. $3,458 every year. Now, run that through a basic compound interest calculator. If instead you invested that $3,458 annually at an average market return of 8%, which is a conservative long-run estimate for a diversified index portfolio, over 30 years, that number becomes $391,000, nearly $400,000, gone. Not because you made a bad investment, not because the market crashed, but because you said yes to things you felt socially pressured to say yes to. Now, and I want to be really clear here, I'm not telling you to become a hermit. I'm not telling you that socializing is bad or that you should never spend money on experiences with people you love. That's not the point. The point is that unconscious social spending, spending driven by guilt, obligation, or the fear of being left out, is one of the most expensive and least discussed leaks in any wealth-building plan. And the reason it's so hard to fix isn't because you don't know the math. It's because of something much deeper. This is where it gets really interesting. There's a concept in behavioral economics called social proof, and it's one of the most powerful forces operating on your financial decisions every single day. Most of the time, completely below your awareness. Here's how it works. Your brain, we're at a very primitive level, is wired to mirror the behavior of the people around you. Not because you're weak or easily influenced, but because for most of human history, being different from your tribe was genuinely dangerous. Being ostracized meant you didn't eat. You didn't survive. So when your brain sees everyone around you spending freely, going on vacations, upgrading their cars, eating at nice restaurants, it sends you a very loud signal. This is normal. This is safe. This is what people do. And when you decide to do something different, to invest instead of spend, to say no to the group trip, to drive a used car while your colleagues drive new ones, your brain fires an alarm. A social threat response that feels almost identical to physical danger. Psychologists call this FOMO at the identity level. It's not just the fear of missing out on an experience. It's the fear that opting out makes you fundamentally different. And different, your brain whispers, is dangerous. Now you might be thinking, okay, Dave, but I'm a rational person. I can override that. And look, to a point, yes. But here's what the research actually shows. A 2021 study published in the Journal of Consumer Psychology found that people who described themselves as financially disciplined still made an average of 2.4 emotionally driven purchase decisions per week that conflicted with their stated financial goals. 2.4 times per week. That's over 120 times a year. Why? Because willpower is a depletable resource. Every time you exercise financial discipline, every time you walk past the thing you want and don't buy it, every time you politely decline a social invitation, you draw down from a reserve that isn't unlimited. This is why the environment you build around yourself matters more than almost any financial strategy you will ever learn. The people you spend your time with, the conversations you're in daily, the social norms you're surrounded by, these are either accelerating your wealth or quietly destroying it. And that is where the loneliness equation really kicks in. Think about it this way. Imagine you're trying to lose weight, and every single day you come home to a kitchen filled with junk food. Every social event you attend is centered around eating. Every friend you have talks about the amazing new restaurants they're trying. Are you more or less likely to stay on your nutrition plan? Building wealth inside a social circle that doesn't value wealth building is exactly the same thing. The kitchen is just full of different temptations. Okay, so here's the framework I want to give you, because the loneliness of building wealth doesn't hit everyone the same way, and it doesn't hit all at once. In my experience, and from talking to a lot of people who've gone through this, it tends to come in 3 distinct phases, and if you know they're coming, you can prepare for them. I call these the divergence, the distance, and the discovery. The divergence is the moment you decide to get serious about money. Could be you read a book, watched a video, had a wake-up call looking at a bank statement. Whatever it was, something clicked, and for a brief moment, it feels amazing. You're energized. You're building a budget. Like you're opening a brokerage account. You're cutting subscriptions. You're fired up. And then you go to dinner with your friends, and they're talking about the new season of some show, or someone's situationship drama, or the night out they're planning. And you're sitting there with this whole new inner world that you're excited about. Compound interest, index funds, emergency funds, the 4% rule, and you try to bring it up. Maybe gently, maybe enthusiastically, and you get blank stares, or a polite subject change, or worse, a joke. Oh great, here comes the finance guy. Here's the thing. This isn't because your friends are bad people. It's because most people have a deeply complicated, emotionally charged relationship with money. For a lot of people, money conversations trigger shame, anxiety, feelings of inadequacy. All when you start enthusiastically talking about investing, what some people hear, even if you don't mean it this way, is, I'm getting ahead and you're not. So they deflect, they joke, they change the subject, and you feel alone in your excitement. That's the divergence, and it catches almost everyone off guard. The distance is subtler and honestly more painful. This is when your financial decisions start to visibly separate your life from the lives of the people around you. You're not going on the same trips anymore. You're not upgrading your car or your apartment when everyone else seems to be. Your weekends look different. Your conversations are different. And slowly, the gap between your current life and the life you're building toward versus the life your social circle is living right now creates a kind of invisible wall. And this is where people quit. Not because the math stops working, but because the social pain becomes too high. I want to give you a real-world scenario to illustrate this. And I've seen this pattern play out so many times, it almost feels like a law of personal finance. Let's call him Marcus, mid-30s, works in logistics management, makes $74,000 a year. A few years back, Marcus got serious about building wealth, set up automatic contributions to his 401k, maxing out at $23,000 per year, opened a Roth IRA, maxing out at $7,000, built a 6-month emergency fund, drives a 2015 Honda Accord he paid cash for. On paper, Marcus is doing exceptionally well. If he maintains this trajectory, he could be sitting on close to $2.1 million by age 62. That's not a lottery ticket. That's math. that's consistency. But in Marcus's friend group, he's the odd one out. His friends are leasing newer cars, taking annual international vacations, going to concerts and festivals. And Marcus is not doing those things at the same rate. He's saying no more. He's showing up to fewer things. And some of his friendships are genuinely strained because of it. Now, here's what you don't realize about Marcus's situation. And this is the thing that really stings. His friends aren't building wealth. Several of them are in consumer debt. Some are living entirely paycheck to paycheck, despite earning similar or higher salaries. And yet, to an outside observer, Marcus's life might look more restricted, more boring, less fun. That optical illusion, where the person doing the right things looks like they're losing, is one of the cruelest tricks of the wealth-building journey. And it is a massive psychological burden to carry. Here's where the story gets better, I promise. The discovery is when you start to find your people. And I don't just mean other people who are good with money in some abstract sense. I mean people who share your values around the future, who understand delayed gratification not as deprivation, but as design, who get excited about the same things you get excited about. And here's the thing. This phase doesn't happen on a fixed timeline. For some people, it's a couple of years in. For some people, it's longer. But it does happen. And when it does, two things occur simultaneously. One, your wealth starts to become visible, not in a flashy way, in a freedom way. You have options, you have breathing room, you make a decision, and money isn't the deciding factor. And two, the relationships in your life get incredibly clarifying. The people who were there for the version of you that was going along with the crowd, some of them are going to fade, and that genuinely hurts. I'm not going to pretend it doesn't. But the relationships that remain, and the new ones you build, they are fundamentally deeper, because they're built on something real. Okay, let's get very specific and very practical, because I don't want this to just be an emotional conversation. I want to give you something concrete. There is a concept I call the social spending audit, and I genuinely believe it is one of the most powerful financial exercises you will ever do. And it takes about 45 minutes. Here's how you do it. Pull up your bank and credit card statements from the last 12 months. Seriously. Go back a full year. And I want you to create a single category called social obligation spending. This is not all social spending. This is specifically money you spent because you felt you couldn't say no. The birthday dinner you didn't want to attend but felt guilty skipping. The round of drinks you bought when it wasn't your turn but someone was watching. The wedding gift you gave above your comfort zone because you were worried what people would think. Most people who do this exercise are genuinely shocked by what they find. The national average, based on multiple consumer spending studies, puts this category somewhere between $2,800 and $4,100 per year for adults aged 25 to 45. Let's use the midpoint, $3,450. Now, I want you to do this math with me, and I mean actually do it. Get a calculator if you want. If you started investing just $287.50 per month, which is $3,450 divided by 12, into a low-cost index fund beginning at age 30, and you did nothing else special, no fancy stock picks, no crypto moonshots, just boring, consistent index fund investing at an average annual return of 8%. By age 45, you'd have approximately $99,000. By age 55, approximately $248,000. By age 65, just under $500,000, $500,000 from one category of spending, from one type of spending that didn't even make you happy. Look, I'm not saying cut all social spending. Life is meant to be lived. Relationships are genuinely valuable, psychologically, emotionally, and yes, even financially. People with strong social networks actually earn more over their careers on average, according to research from Harvard's Grant study. Connection matters. And what I'm saying is, be intentional about which social spending is genuinely enriching your life, and which is just costing you your future. And knowing the difference requires you to be honest with yourself in a way that most people actively avoid. Now, you might be thinking, Dave, this sounds great in theory, but in practice, if I start saying no to things, I'm going to lose my friends. People are going to think I'm cheap. My social life is going to collapse. And look, I hear that. It's a real concern. I'm not dismissing it. But here's the thing. Here's what the research on long-term friendships actually shows. A landmark study from Aalto University in Oxford found that the quality of friendships is far more important than the frequency or cost of social interactions in determining long-term relationship satisfaction. In other words, people don't stay your friends because you keep spending money around them. They stay your friends because of genuine connection, shared experiences that have meaning, and mutual respect. And the friendships that do require you to spend money you don't want to spend in order to maintain them. I'm going to say something a little uncomfortable here. Those friendships are not assets, they are liabilities. A real friend does not require you to compromise your financial future to maintain their approval of you. Full stop. Now you might also be thinking, but Dave, money isn't everything. What about experiences? What about memories? You can't take your index fund to the grave. And you're right, you absolutely cannot. And I agree with you more than you might think. But here's the counter-argument I want you to sit with. That the most financially stressed people I've ever spoken to are not people who missed a few concerts. They are people who are now in their 50s and 60s staring down retirement with $40,000 in savings and $80,000 in consumer debt, wondering where the decades went. The experiences they bought in their 30s, they don't remember most of them. The financial anxiety they're carrying now, they live with it every single day. The best experiences in life aren't bought at the cost of your future. They're funded by the future you built. All right? Here's the part where we get actionable, because I think by now you understand the problem. Let's talk solutions. This is where it gets really interesting, because the answer isn't isolate yourself and only talk to other people who invest. That's not realistic, and frankly, it sounds miserable. The answer is building what I call the 3-layer wealth social strategy. Layer 1. Audit and anchor. This is your internal work. Before you can manage the social dynamics of wealth building, you have to be anchored in your own values and goals. Here's a specific exercise. I want you to write down, and I mean physically write, not type, 3 things. Number 1. What does financial freedom look like for me? Specifically, not being rich. Specific. What time do you wake up? Where do you live? What do your days look like? What are you free from? Number 2, what am I willing to sacrifice to get there? Not what you should be willing to sacrifice, what you actually are. Number 3, what am I not willing to sacrifice? The non-negotiables, the relationships, the experiences, the moments that genuinely matter to you and are worth every dollar. When you have this written down and sitting somewhere visible, making financial decisions in social contexts becomes dramatically easier. You're not making decisions based on anxiety or guilt in the moment. You're making them based on a pre-committed set of values. Psychologists call this implementation intention setting, and it is one of the most well-documented tools in behavioral change research for improving follow-through on goals. Layer 2. Curate and communicate. This is where the social dynamics actually shift. Here's what most people get wrong. They think the solution is to either hide their financial goals from their social circle or to convert everyone around them into fellow personal finance enthusiasts. Both of those approaches fail. Yeah, hiding leads to resentment and exhaustion. Converting leads to being that person that everyone quietly avoids. The middle path is authentic, low-key communication. Not a lecture, not a manifesto, just honesty. When a friend invites you to a $200 dinner and you'd rather not spend that right now, you don't say, "I'm trying to maximize my investment contributions this month." That's weird and it invites debate. You say, "That place is a bit out of my budget right now, but I'd love to grab tacos and catch up." You in? Simple. No drama, no explanation required. Here's what happens when you consistently do this. Some friends will roll with it every time. Those are your people. Some will occasionally push back but ultimately respect it. Those are also your people. And some will make you feel bad about it, repeatedly, pointedly, every time. And pay very close attention to that third group. Because the friends who make you feel guilty for having financial boundaries are projecting their own financial anxiety onto you. And that's not something you caused, and it's not something you can fix by spending more money. Layer 3. Expand and elevate. This is the fun part. This is where you actively build the community that makes the journey less lonely. And I want to give you very specific ways to do this. Not abstract advice, but actual practical steps. Step 1. Join one money-positive community in the next 30 days. This could be an investment club, a local personal finance meetup group, an online community on Reddit like r/personal finance or r/financial independence, a Discord server, a local financial literacy organization. Somewhere that you are regularly surrounded by people who are excited about the same things you're excited about. The research on this is extraordinary. A study from the Journal of Financial Planning found that people with even one financially aligned friend were statistically significantly more likely to hit their savings goals in a given year. Just one. Step 2. Find a financial accountability partner. This is someone, could be a friend, a colleague, a person you meet online, with whom you share a specific financial goal and check in on it monthly. Not to compare or compete, just to stay accountable and feel less alone in the work. Step 3. This one's a bit unconventional, but it genuinely works. Curate your media consumption for 30 days. Every podcast you listen to, every YouTube channel you subscribe to, always every book you read, make it money positive, growth-oriented, wealth-building content. Not because the content alone will change your net worth, but because ideas spread through repetition. And if the ideas you're hearing most frequently are about abundance, discipline, and long-term thinking, those ideas will start to feel normal to you. And once financial discipline feels normal rather than exceptional, the loneliness starts to fade, because you've rebuilt your sense of what typical looks like. I want to zoom out for a moment, because I think there's something important that gets lost in these conversations. The goal of building wealth isn't to separate yourself from the people you love. The goal isn't to become someone unrecognizable to the 20-year-old version of yourself. The goal isn't even just to have more money. And the goal, at least the way I think about it, is to build optionality. To build a life where your decisions are driven by what you actually want, rather than by what you can afford. Where you can say yes to things out of genuine desire and no to things out of genuine choice. And here's the beautiful irony that nobody tells you about. When you reach the other side, when the compounding has done its work and the financial foundation is built, you become more generous, not less. You can pay for the whole dinner. You can fund the trip for a friend who can't afford it. You can show up for the people in your life in material ways that actually matter when it matters. The sacrifice of social spending in your 30s buys you the ability to be a genuinely abundant presence in the lives of the people you love, in your 40s, 50s, and beyond. The lonely season doesn't last forever, but the wealth it builds does, and that is a trade I would make every single time. Look, I want to leave you with something real. If you are currently in that phase, if you are in the divergence or the distance, if you are feeling the social friction of building something that most people around you aren't building, I need you to hear this. You are not doing something wrong. You are doing something hard. Those are two completely different things. The fact that it's uncomfortable doesn't mean you should stop. It means you've started. And starting, in personal finance, is the hardest part, because it requires you to disagree with the consensus, to look at a social situation and make a different choice than the people around you. And every time you do that, there's a cost. But here's what most people don't realize about that cost. You're not paying it for nothing. You're paying it like a down payment. Every awkward moment where you said no to something that didn't align with your goals, that's an investment. Every time you chose the boring, responsible, long-term play over the exciting short-term one, that's accumulating, with interest. I think about this like building a house. Nobody who drives past a construction site looks at the foundation and says, wow, that's impressive. It's just concrete. It's underground. It's invisible. But without it, everything else falls. You are building the foundation right now. It's not glamorous. It doesn't photograph well. Your friends aren't going to be impressed by it yet. But when the house is standing, when the life you're building becomes visible, it's going to be extraordinary. And you will know, in a way that nobody can take from you, that you built it. Not luck, not inheritance, not some viral moment. You, brick by brick, dollar by dollar, decision by decision. So, do the social spending audit. Have the awkward money conversation with the friend who keeps pressuring you to overspend. Find your one financially aligned person. Set your intentions on paper. Build the foundation. And when it gets lonely, because it will sometimes, come back here, because this community gets it. These are your people. If this video helped you, or if it made you think, or if it put words to something you've been feeling for a while, please hit the thumbs up button. It genuinely helps this channel reach people who need to hear this stuff. Subscribe if you haven't already, because every week I'm putting out content designed to help you think differently about money. Not just what to do with it, but why it's so hard to do the right thing and how to make it easier. And drop a comment below. I want to know, what phase are you in? The divergence, the distance, or the discovery? I read every single one. I'll see you in the next one.